All right, guys. New study on training volume. Does more volume equal more gains? Specifically, does the progressive increase in volume equal more gains? I've spoken pretty extensively about training volume in the past, and I tend to be quite quick to jump into and review the latest research. My programming, both for my clients and for myself, is largely based around getting in an optimal amount of volume, whilst, of course, maximizing recovery. So I feel like I need to be on top of the latest research because if anything changes, I need to adapt my programming and especially my clients' programming accordingly, so we're maximizing results and we're in line with the best research we have available today. Today we review a new study done by Ennis et al., which adds further weight to the importance of intelligent programming and the correct use of training volume. Firstly, let's start with a quick study breakdown. So researchers ran a randomized controlled trial, great study, with 30 experienced female lifters. They divided them into 3 groups for the 12-week study. We had a constant group, which trained with 20 sets per week consistently throughout. So that was their sets. There was a moderate progression group, which started at 16 sets per week and added 2 sets every 2 weeks, and they ended up with 26 sets per week, which is decent, and an aggressive progression group, which began at 18 sets per week and ramped up pretty aggressively, adding 4 sets every 2 weeks and finished with a pretty hefty 38 sets weekly. Now, 38 weekly sets, a lot of volume. All participants train legs twice a week, performing each set close to failure, which for the uninitiated means pushing each set until only 1 to 2 reps are left in the tank. So, this is important. That's where the real muscle building stimulus occurs. The most effective sets are close to failure. What did they find? Of course, they found strength gains. All groups got stronger, but those who gradually increased sets gained a little bit more strength. Nice. However, the aggressive approach, so lots of extra sets, didn't significantly outperform the moderate one. What about muscle size? Interestingly, muscle growth differences between groups was pretty minimal. It's doing a ton more sets didn't lead to dramatically bigger legs, just slightly more muscle at best. So adding sets helps, of course. More volume equals more gains, but to a point, and after that you start getting some pretty diminishing returns. So practical takeaways based on this study and the body of evidence. So weekly volume, you want to aim for 10 to 30 hard sets per muscle group per week. Most lifters see optimal results in this range. Beginners can start the lower end, and more advanced trainees might push towards 20 sets or even 30 in extreme cases. But over 20 sets per muscle group per week, it's that's not just total, that's per muscle group per week, is unnecessary for most lifters and does risk injury. For example, I know when I'm pushing my volume a bit high, when I start to experience some tendon issues, specifically I get golfer's elbow when I really go for it, and on both sides as well. It's crazy. Sometimes our muscles can handle more volume and benefit from more volume, but things like tendons and joints and our old ass in general can't. So we need to listen to our bodies. All right, sets per session, you want to stick to around 4 to 8 hard sets per muscle group per workout. More isn't necessarily better. In fact, many will see a plateau after about 6 sets per muscle group per session. All right, training frequency, let's touch on that. Ideally, split your weekly volume into 2 to 5 sessions. You can make great progress with just 2 sessions, but those sessions would need to be a smidge long if you're aiming to squeeze in an optimum amount of volume, especially if you've got like 20 sets per muscle group per week to get in. So aiming for 3 or more is often better. All right, and let's talk about progression. You want to gradually increase your volume or the intensity of your sessions. So, don't just jump straight into crazy volumes. If you do that, you often see diminishing returns, burnout, or even injury. I personally progressively increase my clients' volume through phases, and it works well. Very well, in fact. All right, the realistic optimal. What is that? Let's face it, most of us don't have time to hit 38 sets on each muscle group each week. So, you need to be realistic with your time and look to squeeze in, you want to get a lot of volume in, but you want to get a return on that investment, don't you? You don't want to be wasting sets. Remember that this study, along with many other studies, participants took these sets close to failure, as quality is as important, or perhaps more important, than quantity. We're not just looking to train a lot, we're looking to train hard and smart and adapt things as we progress. If you start getting pain and issues in certain areas, like my golfer's elbows, then bring back the volume a smidge and listen to your body. And again, it's for a lot of people, the sweet kind of maximum optimal spot for weekly volume is around 20 hard working sets per muscle group per week. Going beyond that is generally unnecessary for us mere mortals who want to get good results, but also want to listen to and look after our bodies. Happy lifting.